18 years old, and 2 weeks out of high school, and was drafted. Went in at Fort Lewis in Washington, the state of Washington.
What year was that, Leonard?
1943, and just 2 weeks out of high school. And I did my basic training at Fort Lewis, and then they shipped me down to Santa Barbara, close to San Diego in California, and I went into a searchlight battalion, which was before radar time. And I did full training there, and they wanted to give us some more advanced training in fighter searchlight battalion. And so we were on our way to Camp Orlando, Florida, when for some peculiar reason we stopped off in the middle of the desert, a place called Dateland, halfway between Phoenix and Yuma, and I wound up in the infantry. And the general that had take charge and started the Timberwolf Division was Terry Allen, and he had been in North Africa. And he started the 104th Timberwolf Division, which were later known as the Night Fighters. So we did desert training there to assist in the conquering, or whatever you want to call it, overcome of Africa, the Germans that were in Africa, and that fell through so quickly that they sent us to Colorado, to Fort Carson, to do mountain training to go to Italy and help solve that problem down there. And that also fell through, so this is all send them over for occupation forces. And so I waded ashore at Omaha Beach on the Normandy Peninsula, but quite a while after D-Day. I can't remember exactly, somewhere in, I think, October, something like that.
October of what year?
Of 1944. Mm-hmm. And then we did some guard duty, what they called the Red Ball Highway, which is a non-stop highway for supplies and troops. And then went on up into Belgium, and we saw some action there, and on into Holland. And I got captured on October 31st of 1944, just outside of a town called Breda, B-R-E-D-A.
Is it in Belgium?
In Holland.
In Holland.
Mm-hmm. And we had made a river crossing in the middle of the night, and got up against the canal and dug in. I was in a light machine gun squad, 30 caliber machine guns, and we had dug in, and when the sun came up and got daylight, we were surrounded by German tanks. And so I guess I could use the expression, you don't use a slingshot against a tank. Yeah. So after almost all of our company, I think there's 210 men in a company, there was 20 of us that were left. And it came to the conclusion that we better put our hands up. So
you guys did fight, even though...
Oh, you bet. We were down to 20 left, is all there was out of a company.
When you first woke up and saw all these tanks around you, what went through your head?
Oh man, talk about being scared! You didn't, but yet you were trained not to give up at a drop of a hat. That. So and it's funny how you reflect back on your training. I had a sergeant in our squad, a master sergeant, been in for a long, long time. Several years, and when I joined the force, and he was the orneriest cotton picker you ever want to meet. If any of us made a river crossing, we crawled across. The rest of them could wade, but we crawled across, and we hated him from the word go. And we thought, well, gosh, he's doing it for a reason. He'll bring us back. And when we got over there, and we heard the German machine guns, which fire muzzle velocity about 3 times what ours do, as fast. The RPM is shooting, and it's just like a burp instead of ours is rat-tat-tat, And the minute he heard that, he run like a son of a gun. So then I had one of my dearest buddies was a Wilson fella, the name of Wilson. And I'm not sure whether he was from Kentucky, but because I had two real close buddies from Kentucky. But Wilson was a timid kind of a guy, and he was in another squad of machine guns. And I don't know how many times his machine gun had been hit by an explosion close by and tipped over, because they're on a tripod type, the air-cooled 30s. And he'd straighten that thing up and keep on firing. So, you know, you never know how a man's going to act in combat. Whether he's a timid, shy guy or the rough as a cob can take anything. It didn't turn out that way. It was completely different than what we'd all run into. Mm-hmm. But they moved us after they captured us,
what was going through your head when you had to put up hands or put up the flag? And
the first thing that I did, I was carrying a sidearm, because when you carry when you have a machine gun, you can't have any other weapon like a carbine or a rifle or anything. See? So you have a sidearm. And my gunner, I should back up just a little bit. And when we first got into action, we were sent out across the field to encounter A Company. Well, it wasn't A Company at all, and I was in B Company, and we were supposed to make contact. Well, they opened up on us and killed the first gunner. He was right at my elbow, and I never even got a scratch. Never even got nothing. And he hollered medic once, and then I laid there for a long time, because I figured, well, if they figured they got both of us, then they would abandon, you know. So I just laid there for a long time, and then finally I started inching backwards and left my machine gun. Well, after a while, then the rest of my squad and other squads kept saying, well, you got to go after it. And then I said, well, go after it yourself, you know. But finally, in realizing that I was in command then, because the first gunner had been killed, that if I was going to show that same kind of being yellow, you know, a coward. So I made 3 trips back out there to get the gun and the tripod and the ammunition and all. But apparently they had been knocked off. So, and then from that point we moved on up to when we made this night crossing in the middle of the night, across the turnip patch and across the river and all that. And that's when we encountered the tanks. But the first thing I did when we elected to give up was I took and buried my 45 sidearm as deep as I could into the mud. I thought, well, you know, you've heard all these stories about that they want a Luger and all that. Our guys, well, they figured the same way with us. They wanted one of our 45 because they are a neat-looking, you know, they're a handsome-looking pistol. And so I buried mine just as deep as I could into the mud in the